If you want a simple answer, yes, the game is good. Now, if you want to hear my reasoning behind my opinion, this is indeed my opinion, well, you're going to have to listen to my verdict. The verdict is in. This series is a game series where I go out and rent new games to eliminate any bias I may have for spending a large sum of money on the game. I spend some time on the game to explore all of its mechanics and beat the game. Then I deliver you my ideas on the game and tell you honestly if it is good or not. Buying it or renting it is up to you in the end. Then near the end, I answer some featured questions about the game and answer them. If you want to get to those questions, I'll put it up on the screen because most of it, as of right now, is just a review. So the game we are looking at today is Resident Evil 7. The game starts off with your wife contacting you in order for you to come and get her. Her name is Mia. She has been missing for 3 years, and so you go to meet her in Dulvey, Louisiana. You pull up to a spooky mansion and your quest begins there. The first 30 minutes of this game is very strong and sets the tone for the game very well. When I went into the game, I really did not expect this. It caught me off guard, and all in all, it was a really impressive opening. It hooked me fantastically. The game does not dip from there. It only gets better. Soon you will be solving puzzles and trying to escape the madman known as Jack, the main bad guy. You will go through a gripping story that keeps you interested until the end due to the fact that it ends somewhere completely different from the beginning and pieces everything together quite nicely. You won't want to put this game down for hours on end. The graphics for this game are actually really good. The first scene really shows how good everything in the game looks. The real problem is when you get up close and personal with some of the creatures. The creatures look weird. The textures look weird. Plus, when some of the people are talking, it looks kind of weird. The lip syncing is noticeably odd, and you will find yourself somewhat unimmersed if you keep paying attention to it. Other than that, everything looks absolutely fantastic. The textures are great, and it gives a nice, realistic feeling to it. I love it. Does the gameplay work well, you may ask? Well, let me tell you. This is the first game in the main franchise that uses a first-person camera approach. The game executes this system very well. You don't realize or care that Resident Evil has taken a first-person approach while playing the game. The game has a strong atmosphere that works great with the gameplay mechanic. The scares cannot be replicated in another perspective. They use everything well and know how to execute it. The weapons in the game are pretty great and easy to use. The cool thing about this is that you are not some gun expert and the game recognizes it. It takes a certain approach to shooting. Once you hit an enemy, the enemy kind of jerks away from your reticle, so if you shoot again, you're going to miss. It's a nice mechanic to keep you from hitting the enemy over and over again, and unless you're up close and personal, you're not going to hit them more than a couple times in a row without failing. It's a nice mechanic that more games really need to implement. The boss battles in the game are really fun and not particularly easy. You have to think about what you are doing every instant to stay alive. It really is a nice callback to original survival horror. The boss battles are unique and quite memorable. They really call back to the original Resident Evil, and the game has one of my favorite boss battles in the franchise. Item management is a thing that comes back into play, which is really quite nice. You have to know what to take with you and what to leave behind. It adds a bunch of tension. However, you never know when you need an item again, and you walk extraordinarily slow in this game. It adds a bunch of tension and is a great concept, except for when you need to get an item you weren't expecting to use again. I remember a moment in the game where I ran out save room, and it turned out I needed a crank. I had to run all the way back and return across a large stretch of distance. It felt like more of a chore, and with no enemies to entertain me, it fell short, and I got annoyed with the walking speed of my character. How are the main enemies, you may ask? Well, the AI for the enemies is not fantastic. They are certainly a threat in groups, but not so much alone, which is a problem. They kind of just stagger toward you and sometimes just run into walls. The enemies only have 3 variant types, but they are sparingly placed. This is handled well, so you're not overwhelmed, and the game gives you a break with the fun bosses. However, the enemies can be more annoying than fun to play with sometimes. If they happen to trap you in a small space and you can't run past them, they will continuously attack you, and that's a problem if you're out of ammo. There's also a point in the game where the tension builds to a very high point, and then a monster comes out of a door. It was well executed, but then it follows with 2 more monsters, and that tension is completely lost. The enemies are something the game could have worked on just a little bit more, in my opinion. On to the sounds. The sounds in the game are absolutely amazing. If it wasn't for the sounds, the atmosphere would fall short. I typically found myself looking around, hoping that Jack wouldn't find me, considering I heard sounds. And it puts you on edge a lot of the time. There are sounds of creaking boards, leaking pipes, weird, moist, squishy sounds where creatures spawn, either the black goo, and more. The walking in the game is great too. You can hear every footstep, including yours, and that is extremely important while trying to hide. Opening the doors doesn't give you the same 2 sounds every time, which is really great on the sound design. They have different sounds for the doors depending on how you open them, and that really says something about the sound design. All the music is appropriate for what is happening, and it's implemented when necessary. It doesn't stick around for more than it has to. The save room music is lovely. The one problem I have is that the guns don't sound great. They sound ineffective, and in a game where the sounds are great, it sticks out. The shotgun and pistol don't sound as if they pack a punch. However, other guns sound amazing. It just seems to be the main guns, like the first pistol you get and the first shotgun. Actually, I think it's the only shotgun. Anything such as the burner, which is the flamethrower, or the grenade launcher sound fine, however.
Someplace safe.
Are you gonna tell me what's going on? Baby, you've been gone 3 years.
3 years? Has it really been 3 years?
On another hand of sound, the voice acting is great, especially from our main character and Jack, the main enemy. Mia's is great as well, and Zoe's is good, but not the best. The rest of the cast is really good and does a good job. Overall, the voice acting is fantastic for every character. So in the end, I think, in my honest opinion, this game is worth about $50. It does a great job on every level, but its AIs can make it somewhat unenjoyable at times. It's up to you how you want to play it, but that's how I feel. Now, on to the featured questions. Our first question is this game a simple cash-in on the name, Resident Evil? No, this game is not a simple cash-in on the name, Resident Evil. This game actually does feel like a Resident Evil game. It feels like Resident Evil 1, but with a first-person approach. Now, there is one problem. There are puzzles throughout the game, but there are very few, and they're far between, if any. And they're pretty easy, I would say. So, on the aspect of puzzles, it does not feel like a Resident Evil game, but through the storytelling and the gameplay, it definitely does feel like a Resident Evil game, just in first person. You'll find that a lot of the things in the game actually relate to Resident Evil more than you would think. Is this game an Outlast clone? I'm sure you guys have seen this complaint somewhere or another if you guys have gone on any Resident Evil video. And I'm gonna be honest with you, this is not some Outlast clone. I don't get what they mean. Just because it's a first-person horror game does not mean it's directly correlated with Outlast. Outlast was not the first of its kind, and Resident Evil certainly isn't. Outlast has a totally different storyline. Now, I can understand hiding from things, but in this game, it's not like you're hiding from Jack in lockers or anything. You fight more than you hide. I played both games, and they are completely different. They play out different. Everything about them is different. Their mechanics are hardly the same, except for the first-person camera. So, anybody saying that it's somewhat like Outlast, I don't think they know much about the game. Number 3. Is this game scary? Alright, that's kind of a question. Now, I'm not sure how to answer this, considering I feel like I'm not fit to answer this. I don't get scared by games much anymore, which is kind of sad. I wish I could. But there is one scene in there that I actually did get genuinely scared. Now, does that last throughout the whole game? No, it does not. The game mainly revolves around a more survival horror, as in, it has the theme of horror, but it's mainly about the survival. You getting scared and grossed out does not really include horror elements. So, is this game scary? Yes, on some parts, but it kind of loses that scariness on the rest of the game. Are there ghosts in this game?
Nope.
And that would be all. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, click that like button gently. If you did not like this video, well, then you could leave a comment telling me about how much you hate me for liking this game and how much you wanted it to flop. Now, I understand this is not my regular content, if you want to stick around anymore. This is not my regular content. I haven't made regular content, for 2 weeks, and I've been off schedule like hell. Like, what's going on with me? I don't know. Well, I've been stressed about school. I've been stressed about other things in, real life that does not pertain to YouTube. I really enjoy that you guys are enjoying my new content. I'm trying to get this new series out there, new variety. So I hope that you guys kind of accept this variety with an open mind, open arms, and hopefully it turns out well. If you guys like this series, I would really appreciate it if you said, hey, continue this, rent some more games, and tell me if they're good. I kind of get to the point. If you want to listen to my ramblings about the game, you guys can continue on in the videos. It's a no BS type of review. It's like, yeah, the game is good, 10 out of 10. But I also have no rating scale because I absolutely hate rating scales. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys like this video, click that like button gently. I'm doing this twice because I can. I will see you in the next episode, whatever I make, and stay awesome.